the outlook and fundamentals for the metals remains very, very strong.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference channel. My name is Jesse Day, and today we are blessed to be joined by a man who needs no introduction. It is the silver guru, David Morgan. Thrilled to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here. The first question I want to ask is a broader overview of the silver market in terms of the major tailwinds and catalysts you're seeing in 2023 that could potentially drive the silver price.
Well, I'll get to 2023. We'll give some background of 2022. I think one of the biggest news items was the Silver Institute that said there was a 200 million ounce deficit in 2022. Excuse me. And we've seen ever since the Wall Street silver situation, we've really seen the silver squeeze pretty much continue. There's been pretty high demand to the retail sector from that point forward. And we know that from how many people have joined, plus, what's going on in the Reddit, and also just what we see for actuality in both the COMEX and the LBMA. So there's a lot of physical silver that has left both of those facilities. And that's a strong indicator that physical silver is being demanded at some level. So I think those three things. And so if you, project those into 2023, we see, more activity in silver, and how much are we going to have on the demand side, how much on the supply side. Supply side, Peru's got some issues right now. They're the third largest silver producer. We have also supply situations that could curtail some of the silver output, although the Silver Institute claims there's going to be a big increase in silver production in 23. I'm not convinced, but it could happen, certainly. And then we have to look at where silver comes from. 70% is a base metal byproduct. And there is a global contraction in the economy, which means less copper, less lead, less zinc, less, maybe perhaps even gold, which does affect how much silver comes into production or into the market. And although there is a huge push for the green energy, there's also the problem with how much energy it takes to get the energy, which means that the energy cliff, I think we started on it. So there's going to be more, let's say, deliberation going forward, not only to the environment, social, and governance, the ESG situation. It's also going to say, what do we need the most? And this is a bit of hyperbole. I'll put it out there, Jesse, but here it is. If you got in a real tight mode where you had very limited energy resources for mining in general, probably wouldn't mine gold. Why not? Well, it doesn't really do a lot. Yes, it's almost the perfect money from a classical perspective, but it really doesn't add to society, whereas silver is absolutely imperative and essential. Without it, you can't have our society. So I'm not saying that's going away. I just do that's a thought experiment, but you'd also have to look across the board. Well, copper is extremely important. How important? How about lead? Yes. How about zinc? Yes. How about cobalt? Well, we could do without cobalt batteries. What about lithium? Well, they're the best batteries now, but, so all those kind of things go on. All that's conjecture. All of that's a thought experiment. What I'm trying to get to is that we are getting in a situation globally where we have to be more resourceful with our resources.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I hadn't heard that about if it comes to the mining of these resources, the amount of energy, the amount of fossil fuels that takes. If we're getting much more expensive energy, you're right, that people are going to have to be selective about what they choose to mine. So that is an interesting thought experiment. I wanted to ask about the industrial side of silver. As you just mentioned, it's one of the most used commodities on planet Earth. It goes into so many different things. And now we have the push for the new green economy. We have silver being used in solar panels. It's needed for EVs to some extent. Do you think we could ever see a shift where silver moves away from being a monetary metal to becoming purely an industrial commodity?
Not really, but what I will say is the trend is very clear. If you go back to 2000, 35% of the market was industrial use. 2022, 55% of the market is industrial use. So if we stop there and put a pin in 2022, we say, well, it's half a monetary metal and half an industrial metal. And even that isn't exact, because the monetary component is just part of silver jewelry and silverware, which are, measurable, definitely measurable. I don't think that it'll go away because the word silver and the word money is the exact same word in 14 languages. Also, it's known by, let's say, the alternative media to be money and kind of be the money of last resort. If you look up the 10 Rules of Silver Investing by David Morgan, you'll find out, the 10 things I had to say. And the first one's about silver's use in a financial collapse. And so I think that's part of it. But the last thing to go back is 35% of the market in 2000 was when we were mining 550 million ounces of silver. Today, it's 55% of the market. We're mining 850 ounces. So if you do that, put that on a graph, what you're going to see is there is a huge, relationship between the increase in industrial demand and the push to increase the mining activity. The mining activity has gone up, not double, but significantly from, 2000 when the China boom basically started, or the resource boom, really, and China was the big leader of that. So I don't see it, but I do think that you will continue to see where the industrial side becomes more and more significant. In other words, that trend I just outlined does continue.
Well, let's flip to the other side of that to the retail buying for monetary purposes to protect one's wealth, safeguard oneself from government overreach. We saw a lot of crazy things happening over the past few years. We saw the Canadian government freezing people's bank accounts, seizing assets of political dissidents. We're seeing cracks in the financial system all around the world. The UK pension fund system almost completely collapsed. We see central bank digital currency starting to be rolled out now. I mean, in Nigeria now, they're starting to restrict the amount of money you can take out of an ATM to try to force the adoption of this new digital currency. The Fed, of course, announcing that they're launching a pilot program for a digital currency. They don't say CBDC, but I think we know what they're talking about. Do you think all of these things are ultimately going to result in more retail buying coming in? You said that you think the silver squeeze is kind of still happening, but do you think that could intensify as the vice kind of tightens around the traditional financial system?
Absolutely. It will force people to rethink their asset allocation. And when you have your own bank, if you go back to classic banking, what was it? It was bimetallic silver and gold. And so what did you have at a bank? Well, you had silver and gold that was deposited in the bank and you got a receipt for it. So now if you deposit silver and gold in your own bank, your home, a storage facility you can trust, you are now the bank in a classic sense. And there will be more and more people waking up to that fact. So I definitely think that's the case.
I want to get your thoughts on the collapse of FTX and kind of the downturn in the entire crypto market. A lot of these exchanges, there's FTX, there's Binance, there's a lot of other ones in the past that have failed. People think Binance might be next. These sites were offering attractive yields. It was almost like money for nothing. Just deposit your crypto with us. We'll give you 5, 6, 7, 8% yield. But of course, if something's too good to be true, it very often is. And now where a lot of people are paying the price. So my question is, do you think some of those investors, some of that speculative money from the crypto collapse, as some might call it, might eventually flow into the silver sector?
Absolutely. That's one of my main points I made at the Silver Symposium speech I gave earlier in the year. And if you go to my website and go to the blog section, just hit the blog tab, hit blog, and then type in the search engine crypto conspiracy. I think there's 28 podcasts on that topic. There's another one you should look at called the Silver PSYOP, and that's going to answer your question. So there's a lot of money that went into crypto that probably would have gone into the precious metals. And if you look back at the association on, I think it's episode number 3, we do a very detailed look at where this thing originated. And what you find is it came out of MIT. And you see where the Jeffrey Epstein tie-in is, along with this Ito character. And we also know Gary Gensler is a big MIT, KEYMOUSE. So I'm very adamant about the fact that a big run back into the precious metals from, let's say, the crypto space into gold would have some effect. But the gold market is 11 times larger than the crypto market. But silver is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the crypto market. So if even a small percentage of the crypto dollars found themselves running back into silver, it would have a massive effect. And I actually expect that to happen. I've said many times, and it's probably partially wishful thinking, I admit that. But nonetheless, it's thought through rather well, or at least the best I can do. And that is that the next run up in cryptos, once the dust settles, will probably be led by asset backed cryptos. When people wake up to the fact that this is just software out in cyberspace and it's got a cute name to it, and I'm going to buy it because my neighbor told me so, and he's making money at it, and his neighbor tells his auntie that she should get into it, and all that stuff, that's all going away. So what will come to the fore is, well, what crypto do I really want? Well, there's ones that have software that are useful and viable. And there's ones that are asset backed with gold and silver. There's some that are asset backed with perhaps cobalt or lumber or oil or whatever. But I think the next run up in cryptos, again, after the dust settles, will be asset backed. And I think at the top of those will be the asset backed using precious metals. So again, is this, partially it's what I'd like to see. I am biased on it. I want to see, the power of money into people's hands. Today, we're talking money in a digital form that can be converted into physical metal. That's one of the situations that I'm an ambassador for, the Load Project. And so we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or not. But normally when you get a big change, like we saw in the tech bubble, then everyone that's really legit is left standing. Your Amazons, your Yahoos, and all these, petblanket.com and, I'm a christmastree.com and all these ones that just popped up at the last minute, just blow away. They're gone forever. And I see the same situation in the crypto space. So I'm still long-term bullish on the technology. I still think there's a lot that it can do to help the financial sector and other parts of society. But we need a house cleaning, and it has started and it will continue.
Absolutely. I think blockchain technology could definitely, it has a lot of potential, particularly as you were saying, when it's precious metals backed. You mentioned the Load Project. I've heard of that before as well. Did you want to maybe talk about that a little bit and how that works?
Well, first of all, I'm an ambassador and I have silver contributed to the program, which makes me biased. But I think the best thing to do is look at it on your own, and that means just go to your get a browser opened up and type in ag.load.one. So the symbol for silver, ag.lode.one. Click enter, and you'll get a landing page. And there's 3 videos. If you scroll down, there's the one on the left-hand side. It's only about 2 minutes long. It's called Imagine. And it's professionally done. I really like it. It resonates with me. It talks about imagine that you have the power of money in your own hands. Imagine it's, available around the world. Imagine that there's no barrier to entry, that you can buy silver a gram at a time. Imagine that you can do instant transfers peer to peer without any interference from any banking institution. Imagine. That's a good way to get an introduction for what the overall meme theme is for this. There are others as competitors. Of course, again, I'm biased, but you've got to look at the other ones if you're going to put serious money in them on their contract, because our contract guarantees that you'll be able to get physical silver out or gold from your contract, whereas some of the others, I want to be clear, all you're going to get is fiat. But what's the purpose of being in metal if you're really not in it? You only have a receipt saying that you're tagged to metal. You're tagged to the price movement. It's just like having a futures contract that you can't deliver. So anyway, that's again, but thank you for letting me speak about that. And there are others, and there will be more, and there may be better ones, but the market's in a free market. What really is very cool is that, people see an idea and they improve it or make it better. And that forces kind of maybe the originator to rethink it. Oh man, that's a great idea. We're going to implement that real quickly. The wallet that we've developed was painstakingly hard. It's still not perfect. And one of our team members suggested, why don't we just make a simple wallet? What's a simple wallet? Gold, silver, period. So you open up a wallet, and I want to buy gold, I want to buy silver, I want to pay you in gold, I want to pay you in silver. And that's brilliant. And that's probably what most of our people would want anyway. They may not be interested in all these other cryptos. or whatever. I know I'm personally not. I'm involved with some. I will admit that, but I think stay to your core, and the core is we have an asset of gold and silver, money for centuries, and we can use it on a digital wallet. Are you kidding? That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. And I think people get their heads wrapped around the fact that there needs to be only one choice of currency when we're thinking about a reserve currency, or we're thinking about, a gold and silver backed token on the blockchain. But having competition is actually a good thing. As you mentioned, it drives innovation. So that's great. The VRIC is coming up January 29th and 30th. There is a link below for tickets. They are free. What are you planning to present at this year's VRIC, David?
It's going to be kind of a summary of my January forecast issue. Of course, I'll be talking metals, but not a lot. I'm going to be talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, supply chain disruptions, what's happening in food, what's happening in water, what's happening in energy. And I'm going to go through the big picture, what let's say the elite have indicated they want for us without our let's say agreeing to it. So there's going to be a lot about the big macro picture from a global perspective. And once you lay that foundation out, then again, I'll circle back to why metals are so important in the right amount. I mean, if you take too much of a certain drug that may help you heal, but you take too much, it might kill you, And I look at the metals the same way. I mean, a lot of people hear the story, understand the story, want to be their own bank, and kind of go overboard, and then they get in at the wrong time, and silver goes flat for 5 years or 6 or whatever, and they just beat themselves up. And then some will look for a scapegoat. It's like, oh, David Morgan made me do it. No, I'm not making anyone do anything. You have to take responsibility when you pull the trigger, not me. But nonetheless, it's also imperative to have some. So that's kind of where's that fine point, and that number varies person to person. But generally speaking, as Jim Rickards, who's, I well respected, and he gives 10%. And I think that's good for most people. And the funny part, Jesse, is if 10% of the North American population put their net worth in the precious metals, I mean, it would put gold into the 30,000 range and silver about 1/15 of that price. And that shows you how few people are really involved in this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. For those who want to hear more from you, where's the best place to go online? I know you have a great newsletter. Maybe you could direct people there, and anywhere else you think people should go.
Sure. Go to themorganreport.com, get on our free e-letter. And then the blog is the next best place. You just hit the blog tab there. All our icons are in the right-hand top corner. And there's a tab for Twitter, or an icon for Twitter, for YouTube, LinkedIn, all of our social media is there. We also have a Substack channel. Just go to the Morgan Report on Substack. And I probably will start an Instagram channel as an experiment. I'm not a big Instagram person, but I'll have probably one of my staff or team members, throw up those 10-second whatever. I want to try it. Just have some fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, I'll put a link to the Morgan Report in the description below as well, so you guys can check it out. Thank you so much, David, and looking forward to seeing you at the VRIC.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
We actually need to have a damn good recession.
The Russian economy is a gas station run by the mafia.
$41 trillion has been created out of nothing.
There's a stranglehold in China on most of these resources.
The outlook and fundamentals for the metals remains very, very strong.